Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we are still in the process here of planning for our Mega Eve mission. Like, this is kind of our big mission here. And it's gonna be a big one. There's no doubt about that. There are a couple of things that we need to think about right now. We have mobility for getting up and down this ladder, although I am noticing that I think I opened the autosaved version of the ship. Yeah, we should definitely be... This is alphabetical, isn't it? We should definitely be opening this version of the ship. Fantastic. And I do want to put this out on the pad real quick here. And what we're going to test here is just that those ladder tweaks that we made at the very tail end of last episode actually end up working out. There is another thing that we need to think about, and that is how exactly are we planning on getting the science from the science rover into the experiment storage unit. That's something that we need to think about as well. So, let's see. Okay, yeah, we've definitely got ourselves a bit of a ladder issue here, but ultimately, I think it's okay. I think it's good enough. So we'll revert that back to vehicle assembly, and as I said, we need to be thinking about our rover and how exactly we're going to get science up to this experiment storage unit. We could move it by hand. That's going to take forever. I would prefer to have a docking port down here. Maybe one on like a variable height. The question is, how do we manage that when this is our... Here, let's just open this. When this is our setup for re-entry. Right here. And actually, this is not located where it needs to be. It needs to be located here. Because, of course, these would be retracted. Like so. And then, if I recall correctly, I did have struts on this. That should be here. So the struts would be, like, from here to, say, here. But it should be in quad symmetry. About, like... That'll do. Okay, so let's save that, and we're going to need to get this up into orbit, of course, somehow. That's going to be interesting. Of course, this heat shield will not be inflated when we launch it, but this is going to be an exceptionally heavy payload to get into orbit, and not a particularly great one in terms of aerodynamics at this stage. We do need to get science onto this thing, and we need to develop our science rover as well. For right now, I'm going to save this. Let's go ahead and create a new vehicle, and let's work on that science rover. Now, I'm going to build this primarily out of modular girder segments, I think. And we're going to have, like, a modular girder segment there, and then we would need to have a couple of Kerbal seats on this. It would go up empty, but a couple of Kerbal seats that would end up being... It's checking size here. Okay, that would end up being something kind of like... I'm going to put this in like mirror symmetry here. They would be something kind of like this-ish. Actually, that should be fine. Okay. This is awful. This is objectively awful, and I hate it. Okay, we're not going to do that. We are instead going to work off of maybe a rove mate. Where are you, rove mate? There you are. Okay, so let's work off of this instead, and I do want to put on a pair of seats like this. Excellent. Okay. And then we're going to need quite a number of things on this. We're going to need comms on it. It doesn't have to be the greatest of comms. Like, just a high gain antenna would theoretically work. Or perhaps something along the lines of one of these boys. That could work. We're going to need a bunch of science experiments on this, which is definitely going to be interesting. And I think that the way that we're going to do that is we're going to maybe even double up with the rovemate and have it be like this. Place the communitron perhaps like back here at like a 45-degree angle. Okay. So something along the lines of this. We're going to need wheels on it, of course. Those are some pretty big wheels. Those are maybe a little larger than we need. This, on the other hand, might be about what we need. Put that into mirror symmetry. And put it in there. And then another one about here. And then another one about here. And then we'll snap those into position with the move tool. I do want snapping to be on. So we'll snap it like that, and like that, so that they are all the same height. Okay, so something like this so far. I do want to have some power systems on this. Simply a Z1K should be more than sufficient. And then we'll also put on some solar panels. Now, this is not intended to be lifted again. Once these solar panels are deployed, it should be okay to keep them deployed. So the solar panels would go about here. That's maybe a little large. Maybe we want to go with the 3x2 instead. Yeah, I think this is better. Okay, so we'll do that. That gives us power. We have power, we have comms. Now we need science. So, first things first, we're going to go into our cargo section here. And are we actually going to have cargo on this? Possibly. Well, we probably should, actually. A Science Junior is going to be big and heavy. Do we bring a Science Junior, is the question. That is indeed the question. We could instead simply go into our payload here and bring like a service bay. That's too big of a service bay. Like this size of service bay. And then inside of that service bay, there would be some form of science. So inside of that, we would have most of our experiments. Science Juniors are something that we're probably not going to be able to put on this. We might want to have that be on the lander. We'll have to think about that. A medium scanning arm would be ideal to have on this, to be sure. This is a physics-less part, I believe, but it's a little bit clipping into everything. We'll think about it, but maybe we go with... I mean, we could put in a large scanning arm, like over here. It's a possibility. I don't think it's necessarily a great one. We can do that, though. A magnetometer would probably want to go up here. And then in terms of other experiments that we want to have in this for sure, we would want to have a negative gravioli detector. We would want to have a KER probably. So let's go ahead and do something like that, a computer flight unit. Wonderful. And then we would want a seismic accelerometer, perhaps. Yeah, we probably would. Atmospheric fluid spectrovariometer. It's a big boy for sure. We could perhaps mount this a little bit differently. Put this guy up top. Something along the lines of that. I don't actually care about that altitude. And then a too hot thermometer right over here, like so. And then just move this guy over this way a bit, maybe. That's not clipping out, so I'll call that good enough. That's certainly a lot of science. There is no Science Junior here. And then we can put the computer flight unit, say, right here. Now, this does not include a few things. Specifically, what it doesn't include, and we should save this as, like, what did I call it? Eve Vessel? Or Eve Module? Eve Module Charlie. Okay. I like how I went Alpha and Beta, and then I went Charlie. I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it's fine. Okay, so this will mostly work. We have no Science Junior on this. We could potentially do a radially mounted Science Junior, but this is huge. Absolutely enormous. We could do a regular Science Junior, but again, huge. So I think we'll save this for now. And let's go ahead and put Jeb in this. And let's bring this out to the pad. I think that we're going to have to work a little bit on the wheels. I usually have some wheel issues. So let's see if that's the case here. Actually, that's pretty decent. We could remove steering on this. Okay, this is working reasonably well. I'm actually shocked. I am completely and utterly shocked that this is actually working as well as it is. We can remove steering on the center wheels, and that's probably for the best. Okay, Jeb, can you not see how fast this thing will go, please? Jeb, this is not a speed race. Yeah, see, that's what's going to happen, Jeb. Well, Jeb did learn that it's relatively stable. So that's good. It's certainly good. I mean, in theory, this should largely do the trick. I do want to put headlights on it. I think that will be helpful. Oh, Jeb wants to get all of this science, I suppose. Okay, we'll grab it, Jeb. Good job. Good Jeb? Good Jeb. Okay, so things that we do not currently have. Science Junior, deployable science. A way for this to get these experiments onto the lander module. These are things that we're going to need. Other things that we're going to need include a splashdown mission for the Eve Ocean. That's going to be complicated, to be sure. We'll have to see how that ends up going. Anything in here that's good? I mean, not really. We haven't been ticking time, so this isn't too shocking to me. So let's hop back into the VAB. I do want to put headlights on this thing. And I do want to disable steering in the VAB on our middle wheels here. But overall, I think this is going to be very solid. So let's go ahead and get our lights in here. Let's see. .4 per minute, 0.4, 1.2. Okay, how big are these illuminators? Relatively is the answer. Okay, let's go ahead and put this in mirror symmetry right here. It does block the flag a little bit, but I'm sure it's okay. And then we'll just rotate these guys up to be about like that. They're still aimed down a little bit here. But ultimately that should, in theory, be relatively okay. I'm going to move this guy out over this way a bit as well, and we'll just do something like that. So now we have headlights on here. That's perfect. Okay. We're going to need our Splashdown mission. That's going to be a pretty basic mission, in all honesty. And we'll probably try to do that one first. Landing all of this on land without being able to see where the land on Eve is going to be complicated. The Eve atmosphere is obscuring a lot, so we're definitely going to be a little bit concerned about that one. But let's go ahead and save this for now, and let's open back up the Eve mission beta. And we're going to need to think about ways to get science up to here. I don't want to have to manually move them one at a time. That's going to take forever. So, to that end, I'm thinking about putting in a variable height docking port somewhere. We've got a very small amount of space to work with here. We can't really expand any more horizontally. Actually, we don't need the shroud necessarily. We can't really expand any more horizontally because of the size of our heat shield. So that is something to note. And also, I'm not hand-waving away the fact that we didn't necessarily have a successful entry into the Eve atmosphere. I think as long as we're careful and we take it a little slower, we should be fine. I think. Now, the major problem is aerobraking and landing in a particular biome. But that's kind of the point of the rover, is to be able to go to a neighboring biome if we have to. So there is that. Overall, I think I'm not too concerned about it as long as we land on land. If we land in water or whatever the liquid is on Eve, I'm not 100% certain that's water, but whatever we land on, it's got to be solid, right? If we land on land, I think we're good. If we land in the water, I think we're not. So, this is going to be detached. We can jettison the heat shield. We can ditch, not that. Putting those back. We can ditch this decoupler, put that guy in there, put the heat shield like this, and we can jettison the heat shield when we're done with it. Once we have parachutes, in theory, that should be okay, I hope. And then that means that this will land permanently as it is. I'm just thinking about what we can possibly do to create a variable height docking port. One thing we could do is we could simply drop in a hydraulic cylinder over here. Now this is going to move our center of mass off center. I believe this is the first thing that's going to move it off center. So we have to be careful about that, to be sure. And then we're just going to put in like a cubic octagonal strut. What's the actual extension limit of this thing? Not very far. So we're probably going to need a larger one. I mean, this guy's pretty heavy though. We could put one in all of these, just to keep our center of mass basically the same. It's probably for the best. I don't think we'll have an issue with mass in this stage necessarily, except for during ascent. So we'll have to think about that. But I do think that we'll put a cubic octagonal strut here. Actually, I'm going to go with a modular girder segment. And then we will put in a docking port. And this one will be like a Clampatron Junior. So that'll need to be in coupling. So a docking port Junior, and we'll put that right there. So this will be variable height. Once we're landed, we will be, something like this. And then we will just drop this down to whatever height it needs to be. In theory, this will probably be able to hold the weight of this. I don't know that it actually will be able to, but that will allow us to dock up with the Charlie module, which of course doesn't currently have a docking port. So I'm going to move the magnetometer to be like right here. And then I'm going to move the communitron to be here. And we're just going to put a docking port right in the back. So we'll put the docking port like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and save that and let's launch this. And what we're going to do is we're just going to test this landing system, or rather this docking system. This should work, and we're going to need to figure out a way to land the rover, of course. I'm probably just going to parachute it in, but we'll bring it on over off the pad so that the pad is no longer considered, or blocked, rather. So we'll bring this on over. And of course, we still don't have our deployable science, and I haven't yet decided how we're going to handle that one. So let's head back to the Space Center here. And we are going to put our Bravo module out on the pad. And we're going to run a few tests with that. And of course, we still need to think about our Ascent module and whether we even have enough Delta V. That's something that I'm still considering. And I'll probably run some tests on that one. But for now, we're going to go ahead and extend these landing legs. I'm going to remove the heat shield for right now. And then we're going to launch this. Note that I did not save it. So we're going to launch this here. And we're going to run a couple of launch pad tests. I know it feels like this has been being prepared for a very long time, but this is a very complex mission. So, yeah. We're just going to bring this on down. First test here. Can these hydraulics lift this whole thing? On Kerbal, anyway. Yes. Yes, they can. Well, that's exciting. Okay. Second test. We're going to just bring those on in, and we're going to bring our rover up. So up we go with the rover. The speed on this thing isn't necessarily the greatest, but it should be fine. I mean, I think we can boost up our motor eventually. Can we make it up this hill? Yeah, we should be okay. Excellent. Now, I am noticing that we are turning a bit on the way up, and I think that's because of the weight of the robotic arm. That should be fine. So we're just going to come on up over here, and this is something that I was slightly concerned about, is that this is inside of the landing legs. But we'll just see how well that ends up working here. And we'll just line this up a little bit. Oh, the reason we were having trouble accelerating is because our brakes are on, of course. We're going to hop over to here now, and we're just going to kind of eyeball the extension here. It'll need to be somewhere around 1.3, I think. And we'll set this as our target. And we will... I would control from here, but I'm actually not going to. We're just going to point anti-target here. And this is what I'm a little concerned about, is coming through these legs. Looks like we just phase right through them. Okay. Sounds good to me. And that docked right in there. Those docking forces really took over. Well, that works. That works very well. I'm pretty pleased with that. Now, things that we don't yet have. Deployable science. Proof that this will survive entry. And proof that once these are filled, that we can get to orbit with this vector. That's what we need at this point. And that, I think, is what we will get next episode. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and I will see you all next time.